In Japan, being overweight can trigger official health checks. Disrupting a queue can get you punished, and even splashing a pedestrian may cost you. Here are 15 Japanese laws that sound completely made up. 1. Japan measures people's waistlines. You may have heard that being overweight is illegal in Japan. That is not true. Nobody is arrested or personally fined simply for being overweight. However, Japan introduced a health screening program in 2008 to reduce metabolic syndrome and related illnesses. Under the program, health insurers arrange regular medical checks for adults between the ages of 40 and 74. These examinations may include waist measurements. A waist measurement of 85 centimeters for men or 90 centimeters for women may be used alongside other health risks to decide whether someone should receive health guidance. Employers and health insurers may also be encouraged to improve their health results. But the important point is this: being overweight is not a crime in Japan. The so-called fat tax is a misleading nickname for a public health program. 2. Japan's constitution renounces war. Article 9 of Japan's constitution says that the Japanese people renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation. It also renounces the threat or use of force as a way of settling international disputes. The Constitution further states that land, sea, and air forces will not be maintained for those purposes. However, saying Japan has no military forces at all would be misleading. Japan maintains the self-defense forces. These include ground, maritime, and air units responsible for national defense, disaster relief, and other security operations. So war is not simply illegal in the everyday sense. The more accurate explanation is that Japan's constitution places strong restrictions on the country's use of military force. 3. Pressuring an employee to drink can become workplace harassment. After-work drinking parties are known as nomikai in Japan. For many years, attending these gatherings and drinking with colleagues was considered an important part of workplace culture. Some workers felt they could not refuse drinks offered by a boss or senior colleague. But there is no special criminal law that simply says you cannot ask someone to drink alcohol. The reality is more complicated. If a superior repeatedly pressures an employee to drink, threatens their career, or punishes them for refusing, that behavior may be treated as workplace power harassment. Employers in Japan are required to take steps to prevent workplace harassment. So refusing a drink is not illegal, and using workplace authority to force someone to drink can create serious legal and professional problems. 4. Women once had to wait before remarrying. For many years, Japanese law treated divorced men and women differently. A man could remarry immediately after a divorce. A woman, however, originally had to wait 6 months. The waiting period was created to prevent legal confusion over the identity of a child's father if the woman became pregnant around the time of her divorce. In 2016, the waiting period was shortened from 6 months to 100 days, with certain exceptions. But this information is now outdated. On April 1, 2024, Japan completely abolished the remarriage waiting period for women. Today, both men and women can legally remarry immediately after a divorce. 5. Creating a cloned human can lead to 10 years in prison. Japan has strict rules governing human cloning. The Act on Regulation of Human Cloning Techniques prohibits placing certain cloned human embryos into a human or animal uterus. Violating this prohibition can result in up to 10 years in prison, a fine of up to 10 million yen, or both. The law does not ban every form of scientific research involving cells or embryos. Its main purpose is to prevent reproductive human cloning and other prohibited reproductive experiments. So Japan is not banning medical research completely, but attempting to create a cloned human being can carry a very serious punishment. 6. Deliberately exposing your buttocks or thighs can be an offense. Japan's Minor Offenses Act contains a rule that is often misunderstood online. The law can punish someone who deliberately exposes areas such as the buttocks or thighs in public in a way that causes disgust. However, this does not mean that shorts, miniskirts, or clothing that reveals part of the thigh are automatically illegal. The wording focuses on deliberately exposing the body in an offensive public manner. The law comes from 1948 and is reportedly rarely used in ordinary clothing situations. So tourists do not need to panic about wearing shorts. Normal fashion is not the target of this rule. 7. Damaging another country's flag can be a crime. Japan's penal code protects the national flags and emblems of foreign countries. If someone damages, removes, or defiles a foreign flag with the purpose of insulting that country, they can face up to 2 years in prison or a fine of up to 200,000 yen. However, there is an unusual condition. Prosecution can only take place if the government of the affected foreign country requests it. The law specifically protects foreign national symbols. Japan does not currently have an equivalent general criminal provision protecting the Japanese flag in the same way. 8. Begging can be punished. Japan's Minor Offenses Act says that begging, or making another person beg, can be punished by detention or a small fine. However, the law does not automatically make every request for financial assistance illegal. Charitable fundraising, selling a product, offering a service, or running a legitimate crowdfunding campaign is not necessarily the same as begging. The original claim that all online requests for money are illegal is too broad. Whether an online activity breaks the law would depend on its exact nature and the laws that apply to it. 9. Drivers must avoid splashing pedestrians. Driving through a puddle and soaking someone standing nearby might look like a harmless accident. But Japan's Road Traffic Act requires drivers to take precautions when traveling through mud or puddles. Drivers should use mud guards, reduce their speed, or take other reasonable steps to avoid scattering dirty water or mud onto other people. A driver who ignores the road conditions and splashes a pedestrian may face a traffic penalty. The exact amount can depend on the vehicle and how the offense is handled. So when it rains in Japan, slowing down near pedestrians is not just good manners, it is part of the traffic rules. 10. Drunk cycling is illegal. In Japan, bicycles are treated as vehicles under road traffic law. That means drinking and cycling can lead to serious consequences. A person must not ride a bicycle while intoxicated. Recent reforms also strengthened enforcement and penalties for dangerous bicycle behavior. And it is not only the rider who can get into trouble. Someone who knowingly provides alcohol to a person who is going to ride a bicycle may also face legal consequences. The same may apply to someone who provides the bicycle while knowing that the rider is intoxicated. So after a night out in Japan, riding a bicycle home is not a safe legal alternative to driving. 11. Carrying scissors without a good reason can cause problems. Japan has strict rules concerning knives and other objects that could be used as weapons. But the claim that every pair of scissors longer than 3.15 inches is automatically considered a sword is inaccurate. Different restrictions can apply depending on the object's blade, shape, and size. More importantly, Japan's Minor Offenses Act can punish a person who carries a knife, metal bar, or another dangerous instrument without a legitimate reason, especially if it is concealed. Scissors may fall under weapons control laws or minor offense rules, depending on their design and the circumstances. Carrying work scissors for your job may be reasonable. Carrying them for self-defense is generally not considered a valid reason. The context matters just as much as the length. 12. Opening someone else's sealed letter can be a crime. In Japan, opening a sealed letter without a valid reason is a criminal offense. The rule does not only apply to strangers. A letter addressed to your spouse, sibling, parent, or another family member is still their private correspondence. Opening it simply because you live in the same house does not automatically make it legal. The punishment can be up to 1 year in prison or a fine of up to 200,000 yen. However, prosecution generally requires a complaint from the affected person. So if a sealed letter is not addressed to you, the safest choice is simple. Do not open it without permission. 13. Aggressively disrupting a queue can be an offense. Japan is well known for orderly queues at train stations, bus stops, and public events, and the Minor Offenses Act offers some legal protection to those queues. The law can punish a person who uses threatening, offensive, or disorderly behavior to break into or disrupt a line of people waiting for public transport, public performances, or certain distributions. This does not mean that accidentally stepping ahead of someone will immediately send you to jail. The law focuses on behavior that is disruptive, intimidating, or creates fear that force may be used. Still, it proves that queue discipline in Japan is more than a cultural preference. 14. Making a false disaster report can be punished. Japan experiences earthquakes, typhoons, floods, and other natural disasters. False emergency information can create panic and waste valuable public resources. Japan's Minor Offenses Act can punish someone who knowingly reports a crime or disaster to public officials when no such event has happened. So making a fake emergency report as a joke can have legal consequences. This rule becomes especially important during real emergencies, when police officers, firefighters, and rescue teams must act quickly. In Japan, falsely telling officials that a disaster has occurred is not treated as harmless 15. Spitting or urinating in certain public places can be an offense. Japan's Minor Offenses Act prohibits spitting, urinating, or defecating on roads, in parks, or in places where members of the public gather. It can also punish someone who causes another person to do it. This rule helps explain why public spaces in many Japanese cities are treated with such care. The possible punishment is detention or a minor fine. It may sound like basic public behavior, but Japan places it directly inside its National Minor Offenses Act. And that brings us to the end of 15 surprising Japanese laws and legal rules. Some of these claims were true, some were outdated, and others became exaggerated as they traveled across the internet. The biggest lesson is that strange laws usually sound even stranger when the important details are removed. Which one surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe for more fascinating facts, unusual laws, and incredible stories from around the world.